Chase at the 40. Look at that move. Look at Chase go. Oh, my goodness. What a gear.
He comes down to this in his car end zone. Intercepted.
McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl.
Toss here. Mixon's going to throw. Open man. Caught. Higgins. Touchdown.
Touchdown. Joe Burrow has his first rushing touchdown of the season.
Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat, which mine is racing still, of our Cincinnati Bengals. Whew. Maan, the game ended about 15, 20 minutes ago. What a way to start Christmas. Man, oh man, a crazy game. A game, again, of two halves. Only this game, we were on the back end, but fortunately, the difference being, obviously, our defense is very special. Maan, we have so much to get to here on episode 38 of the Bengals Pulse. Is your heart okay, man? Because did you take your medicine? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I am perturbed. I just it doesn't take rocket science to figure out what happens here. I had flashbacks to that game against the Steelers. Turnovers simply, they're the great equalizer. The game shouldn't have been close. We're so much better than that team, but that pick six and the other turnover inside the red zone really hurt this team, and that fluke touchdown also. But we'll get into that in a few minutes. Hey, I'll take the win. I'm glad we're 11-4, and we got a big game next week against Buffalo, and let's do it. Seven in a row. You're right. You're
Seven
right.
in a row, Mom, right? That's all that matters. And you're right, man. I mean, obviously, we are better than that football team, a lot better than that football team. And it showed the first half. But we talked about it, going into Foxborough is a tough place to win. And I'm going to throw some stats out there that show that, how tough it is to win there. And Bill Belichick is a great coach. I mean, you saw it the second half. They made some adjustments on defense, and we struggled the second half. But let's talk about – all right, let's go over stats first, and then we'll get to the game, okay? Here we go. Joe Burrow finishes 40 of 52. Mon, 40 of 52, 375 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Sacked twice with a rating just under 100. Rushing the football, Joe Mixon, 16 carries for 65 yards. Averaged 4 yards a carry, Mon. Not too shabby. Had that big 19-yard run. T. Higgins, man, what a game he had today. 8 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. 39 yards was his longest reception. A great catch there. Jamar Chase, 8 catches, 79 yards. He did have that fumble. Trent Irwin, man, what a day for Trent Irwin, Mon. 3 catches, 45 yards, but 2 of them for touchdowns. The guy he is just making plays. He has just been outstanding. Joe Mixon, 7 catches for 43 yards. So he does break the total yards, 108 total yards. So he breaks that 100-yard mark for total yards. Mitchell Wilcox, a big part of the game plan today. 6 catches for 35 yards. Tyler Boyd, 3 for 21. Samaje Perine, 3 for 19. Oh, man. Defensively, Logan Wilson, 9 total tackles. He is the leading tackler once again. 7 solo and a sack. Von Bell, Cam Sample, each with 6 tackles and each with a huge play. Cam Sample with a big sack. Von Bell with a big forced fumble at the end of the football game. Man, oh man, what a play by Vaughn. Mike Hilton, 5 tackles. Cam Taylor-Britt, he struggled today. He had a rough day today. He did have 4 tackles along with Jesse Bates and B.J. Hill, each with 4 tackles. We'll talk about Cam Taylor-Britt here in a minute. Jermaine Pratt, 3 tackles and should have had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. I don't care what anybody says. That was a fumble. I don't know what the definition of a fumble is if that is not a fumble. And then we had Zach Carter with his first sack. It's only a half sack, but still a sack. Josh Tupou, a sack. And then Joseph Asai with that other half sack, along with Zach Carter. Money Mac, Maan, he struggled today. Missed a field goal. Missed 2 extra points, really. I mean, we got the personal foul that gave us the opportunity to go for 2. But really 2 missed extra points and a mixed field goal. And Jay Morrison, he touched on it right before kickoff. He said, I've been watching Money Mac out here warming up, and he is missing badly. And that showed today in the football game. But obviously, on the other side, Nick Folk had a rough day too, kicking the ball. And Drew Chrisman with 3 punts, Mon, and none of them bigger, really, than that punt right there at the end of the football game. Not just not punting it to the middle of the field so they could get a good return, because that guy, he's one of the best returners, Marcus Jones, in the NFL. He's already beat one team on a punt return. Drew Chrisman kind of, coffin corners it over to the sideline there and gives them pretty poor field position. So all in all, Mon, let's talk about the stats first. What jumped out at you?
Well, I mean, the first half of the game, Cincinnati, the first quarter, halfway through the second quarter, they were just marching up and down the field. It looked comical. It looked like just, it was so easy. Joe Burrow had time. He was picking them apart. You mentioned Irwin with those key grabs. Higgins looked like a man playing against boys out there. It was just too easy. And you know what? I thought we were going to coast. I thought it was going to be a 40-7 game. But you know what? You got to give the Patriots some credit. I think Belichick and his defensive staff knew, hey, we can't let Burrow just sit back there all day. He started dialing up pressure. He was only sacked twice, but Jake, he was hit numerous times.
Yes.
And they were, they were coming after him. And guess what? It created some turnovers. They got 3 team turnovers. The pick 6 that I mentioned, that horrible interception inside the red zone. It looked like Tyler just quit running. And, that negated at a minimum another 3 points. And but you know what? The Patriots didn't sit back and just let Joe Burrow pick them apart anymore. They tried, they tightened up in the second half. And, our offense had some difficulty responding. Jake, I'm a little concerned about this, though. Last week against Tampa, we had 50, 55, 57 yards rushing at 2.5 yards per carry. Today, we had 73 yards rushing at 3 yards per carry. That's unacceptable. Listen, I know, and Joe Burrow throwing the ball 52 times, I just don't think that's a recipe for success. And listen, Joe Burrow is elite. He's special. But we don't want our quarterback throwing the ball 52 times. And our rush game, for where we want to be, where I think the Cincinnati Bengals can go, we have to get the rush game better than 2.5 yards per carry. We got to get back up to the 4.5. And let's face it, the last couple games, we just the run blocking hasn't been there. I don't want that offense to become one-dimensional again, early part of the season where we struggled. So hopefully they target that and work on it, because we got a really big game Monday night. Really, really big game. It could be easily the game of the year in the NFL.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's just talk about that first half really quick, because Joe Burrow accomplished a couple things that have never been accomplished before. One of them being the 289 yards passing in the first half that has never been done against a Bill Belichick football team. That is incredible. That is incredible when you think about how many games Bill Belichick has been a part of, whether as a head coach or a defensive coordinator. Never 289 yards passing in the first half. But as you said, they bounced back the second half. I mean, the guy is a great coach. Joe Burrow, 28 completions, Mon, in the first half. That is unreal. That's the most of any quarterback for this entire season. And then the most obviously too against a Bill Belichick. So some good things that happened the first half. Obviously, like you said, we were rolling a little bit there. The interception where it looked like maybe Tyler Boyd cut off his route. You could see Joe Burrow was a little upset on the sideline with Tyler Boyd. You don't see that very often. So obviously some miscommunication there. And the Bengals left some points out there. You know, we Joe Mixon scores a touchdown. They call holding, you know, that. And again, the holding play they called, that is, you can call that on every play of a football game. That is a ridiculous call there. It really is. I mean, was it holding? Yeah, maybe. I mean, he grabbed the outside of his shoulder, but I mean, good Lord. You know, Mixon was already past the outside shoulder. That's just a ridiculous call. But anyway, so the Bengals leave 4 points sitting there, and obviously another at least 3 with the interception. So as good as that first half seemed like it was going, the Bengals left a lot of points out there. I mean, the game easily should have been 30-0 at halftime. And we're probably not even talking about the ending of this football game. But again, on the road against Bill Belichick in Foxborough, that's a must-win game for the New England Patriots. They had to win today. You know, so there's a lot of other stuff that I'm not making excuses for the Bengals. Don't get me wrong. I was not very happy the last 6 minutes of the game. But all that considered, I will say this, Mom, that obviously, you know, you and I have been Bengal fans for over 40 years. I'm not sure there's another Bengal team except for maybe the 81, 88, maybe those teams where the Bengals buckle down at the end and cause a turnover. I don't even think last year's Bengal team wins that football game the way it comes down to it. This Bengals team, we have talked about it, Mon. They are special. That this team is different, man. And you know what I love about it more than anything is you could tell when the game was over, the Bengal players were not celebrating. Joe Burrow was not celebrating. Jamar Chase was not celebrating. They were pissed about the way that game went down, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. They know how good they are, and their expectations are a lot higher than blowing a 22-point lead.
Yeah, listen, the Bengals, I'm not going to apologize for a win. A win is a win. You just said it, playing on the road in New England. Listen, I'll take it. It wasn't pretty. And just the way it unfolded in the second half, you know, the casual people that don't follow the Bengals are going to go, oh, look, the Bengals are this, that, you know, they're going to say the negative things about the Bengals, that, you know, they're not ready for the big show. But listen, it's a win. And beating Bill Belichick and that defense is loaded. They have some really good players.
We talked about that.
Yeah, they have special players on that defense. Offensively, they're terrible. The Patriots are terrible. Yeah. They got that fluky touchdown. The pick six helped them. But listen, I got some breaking news here, Jake, on Twitter. All right, I'm going to read it real quick. All right.
Okay.
This is from Kelsey Conway. All right, just spoke to Bengals right tackle Lael Collins. He told me he dislocated his kneecap, but it popped back into place. He says he's moving well, and he believes if he misses next week's game against the Bills, which he says is likely, it will be just that game. It is not a season ender. That's great news. That's really good news.
Maan, that's unbelievable news. That's not just great news. And I think sometime during the game, I text you guys that a report had come through that the ACL was intact, that they found that out after they took him back to the locker room, that the ACL was intact. So, yes. Oh, my goodness gracious. That is great news, Mom. Thank you for breaking that, because I feel a lot better right now. We were going to talk about that, how healthy this offensive line has been all year. We also have talked about Jonah Williams' struggles, and we saw that again today against those really good pass rushers. Again, you're talking about the two best tandem pass rushers in the NFL we face today on the road. Judon, Uche, they lead. I think they combined for like 25 or 26 sacks. That's number one in the NFL. We talked about it when we did our preview for this game. This front seven for the New England Patriots is nasty. They are good, really good, Mon. And so, again, I was surprised, just like I'm sure you were. We talked about establishing the run game, and we never saw that. I mean, Joe threw it 52 times, and I think that was more so because of they felt like those DBs are young, and they are. I mean, they picked on those guys. I mean, obviously, they got 2 picks. One of them, as we talked about before, Tyler Boyd cut the route off. Those things happen. The other one, Jamar Chase, I don't think Jamar Chase read the blitz off of the line of scrimmage. Joe Burrow was expecting him to cut the route off. He didn't, and Marcus Jones made a great play. Don't get me wrong. Marcus Jones is a good football player. He's going to be a really good football player for years to come. But just a couple fluky plays. And then obviously, like we talked about, that Hail Mary, I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. But I want to go real quick, Mom, because I want your thoughts on this. I'm very confused. I really am, Mom, because I watch football and I coach football, and that play by Mac Jones is a fumble. It is a fumble. It doesn't matter if your arm is going forward or not. If the ball comes loose, even if you're in the motion of throwing, if that ball comes loose, which he wasn't in the motion of throwing, he was kind of, doing one of these things, that ball is loose. That is a fumble. That is an absolute fumble. Somebody has got to explain that to me. Listeners, if you know something I don't know, because in every definition of the word, how is that not a fumble? I just don't get it,
Yeah.
man.
Jake, I called it. I sent you a text. I thought it was a fumble. Listen, it was one of those situations. We see it every week. If they called that a fumble and then Belichick challenges it, it would stay as a fumble. They just went with the call on the field.
And I agree. I think that's probably what they did there.
Yeah,
They didn't want to look like idiots, because obviously they'd taken away a game-sealing touchdown from Jermaine Pratt. But yeah, I agree with you, I guess. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible.
No, it was frustrating. We thought, hey, this is potentially a game changer there. Listen, I'm not trying to split hairs and be negative. I'm so grateful and I'm glad we won. But, the flow of the offense was a little bizarre. And, this is the third time we've harped on it. We don't want our quarterback throwing the ball 50 plus times a game. That's usually a recipe for a loss. Listen, early in the third quarter, that's where they adjusted at halftime. They started getting pressure on Burrow, blitzing, doing really exotic stunts, whatever. Burrow was getting hit. And, okay, I was sitting there thinking, like, hey, I'm not some NFL coach, but let's start running the ball. Let's slow down that pass rush a little bit. Let's try to run the ball a little bit more. Mixon had a good 17-yard carry. I'm like, here we go. The running game's about to show up. And then guess what? They started throwing the ball again. Yeah. They did have 24 rush attempts. I get it. But you know what? We need to run better than 3 yards per carry. The last 2 weeks has really has been pretty poor. Let's face it. Before the Tampa game, we were running the ball very well with Pirine and Mixon, and we just need to get back to that. We're going to need to do that against the Bills. And you know what? Listen, I'll take the win. I love it. The first half was a very relaxing first half. It was so casual at the house here. We were just having a good old time.
Yeah, we were too.
Then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I looked at my son. I'm like, man, it's just never easy. It's never easy.
I think that's what I text you. Isn't that what I text you? I said it's never easy. I text you the same thing. Yeah, my in-laws are here. They came over, and they I think they saw a new side of me that maybe scared them a little bit. I was not very happy, but again, like you said, a win is a win. But I do want to go back to that, Mom, because out of the 12 completions, we had 5 or 6 drops today. Higgins drops a touchdown. Jamar Chase drops a very explosive play. I mean, 50-plus yards, possibly a touchdown as well. So, and then Joe Mixon had a drop. I mean, Tyler Boyd had a drop. I mean, there were drops all over the field. So, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you about running the football. I said that this past week. We need to run the football. But at the same time, receivers got to make plays too. You know what I mean? And at this level, you don't expect that many drops. And we really haven't seen that from this Bengals football team. And hopefully we got it out of our system. and because we still got the win. One thing too I want to talk about, because we talked about how good Bill Belichick is. Maan, today's game was the second largest halftime deficit in the Bill Belichick era. The second Maan, largest deficit. The other one was they trailed Denver 24-0 week 12 of 2013, and they came back and won that 34-31. Thank you, Jay Morrison, for that awesome tweet. But that's incredible. It's incredible, one, to have that deficit. And obviously, we see that from Bill Belichick. I mean, the Broncos had a 24-0 lead on them at halftime, and Bill Belichick willed his team back to win that football game. So this is not an enigma what happened today as far as Bill Belichick making adjustments. And, Lou Anarumo is not the only good defensive coach in the NFL. I mean, these guys, that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And Bill Belichick, he did a great job today. But real quick,
Jake, sometimes.
Go ahead, Mom. Go ahead.
Sometimes we overanalyze, and like I'm trying to be maybe simplistic here. It's not rocket science. Joe Burrow was destroying Bill Belichick's defense, the Patriots. They had no answer. So, he probably looked at his son, who's the defensive coordinator, and says, man, just get this kid on his ass. I mean, hit him. We got to hit him. We got to hit him.
Right.
And, that's what they did. And then again, you know what? They know we have a great, promising young rookie in Cam Taylor-Britt. He's a great player. And they said, hey, man, just target him. He's a rookie. He still doesn't know. Yep. Listen, he came up with some good plays today. He really did. But let's face it, we know he's going to have some growing pains. Yeah.
Yeah, that play at the end of the game, that pass breakup at the end of the game, that's a great play. I mean, that was I'm talking about the last play of the game on fourth down. That was a great play. He put himself in a good position. He right-armed it to where, he didn't cause pass interference, and that's a great play. He got his head around. That other touchdown they got, he just didn't get his head around. He's going to learn that. And normally they, we talk about watching the hands of the receiver. Yeah. But I will say we also teach when it's in the end zone, you've got to get your head around. If there's a clock in your head, there's got to be a clock in your head. Especially when you're cornered to the back goal line, you got to get your head around. And Cam Taylor-Britt will learn that. And then of course the other one's just a fluky Hail Mary. I mean, that's just ridiculous on 3rd and 29. Are you kidding me? But real quick, go ahead.
I just want to, last thing, Jake, I'm a big Cam Taylor-Britt fan. I'm a big fan of Cam Taylor-Britt. Not trying to nickel and dime him. Listen, he had some tough plays today, but he came up with some really solid one also. Go ahead, Jake.
Listen, Mon, Cam Taylor-Britt is going to be a great player for us for a long time. I said that last week. He's a dude. Mon, that hit, he comes down and lays some wood. He is a physical corner. He just has to, he has to learn to body position and that kind of stuff. It just comes with time. But I want to go back to this part because we talked about this last week, and one of the keys to the game was stopping the Patriots' run game. The Patriots had 16 carries for 61 yards rushing. That's pretty good. To me, that's a win. You're talking about this Patriots team has ran the football really well. We talked about that in the last episode for the preview. This Bengals defense, once again, is just extremely stout against the run, Mon. We saw it today. That's making Mac Jones beat you, which, Mac Jones had a better second half, but that first half, man, he was really struggling when, there wasn't any pressure, but obviously, the pick six, then the fluky play, and now the Patriots are back in the football game, and he's got a little bit more confidence.
Yeah. You're right. And listen, just, hats off to the defense. Hats off. Listen, they made Jones. They made, came up with a couple of those fluky plays. Just listen, they came through. It's an uneven win, but it's a win, Jake. And
it's a win.
We're just going to have to live with it. And we got to, it wasn't the prettiest, but I'm going to take it. Yeah. And I'm going to take it with a big Christmas smile, okay? And we're going to get ready for the Bills.
That's what I told my family after the game. I said, "All right, guys, Christmas is back on."
Yeah.
Because there was a time there where my wife is over there with her head down, like, "Oh no, this is not going to be a good Christmas." Go ahead, Mom. What were you saying?
Yeah. No. I was just looking. I was analyzing the stats some more. I'm sorry.
Mm.
Joe
Okay.
Mixon did average 4.1 yards per carry,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
the team overall averaged 3 yards
Yes.
per carry. But, you know,
Well,
listen, they were
Samaj.
feeding him the
Go ahead.
ball. He did okay, but, you know, I wish, you know, I would love to have Joe Mixon get another 10 carries instead of my quarterback throwing the ball 52 times. But,
Well, I mean, we
you know, hey,
basically ran it. We basically ran the ball 20 times, Mon. Joe
yeah,
had 16 carries. Samaje had 4 for 3 yards. So, I mean, we ran the ball 20 times, for 78 yards, which again, I mean, the other 5 yards is Joe Burrow scrambling. So,
right, right, right,
just,
right.
again, you're right. I mean, it is what it is. We got to run the football. We have to run the football. We're getting to the point now in this season where every game is a playoff game. You got to run the football. We just have to. We cannot be throwing the ball 52 times a game in 16-degree weather. I love Joe Burrow. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, which, again, you could say what you want to. He is. He's the best quarterback in the NFL, but you still don't want anybody throwing the ball 52 times a game. Just real quick, Mon. The Ravens eke one out again. I mean, they are just awful. The Ravens are awful, Mon. I just they're the worst 10-win team I've ever seen, ever in my life watching football. They win 17-9, so they're still a game back. Let's see. Kansas City wins 24-10 against a really bad Seattle Seahawks team. The New Orleans Saints, Mon, Andy Dalton goes into Cleveland and beats the Cleveland Browns, the Brownies. New Orleans wins 17-10 over Cleveland. And the Buffalo Bills, Mon, we're going to talk about the preview here for our next episode, but I'm going to say this right now. The Bengals are going to win on Monday night by 2 scores against the Buffalo Bills. I'm saying it now. The Buffalo Bills struggle today against a 3-win Chicago Bears team, and the score does not dictate how close that game actually was. The Bears were winning that game at halftime on. The Buffalo Bills struggling right now, and I like our defense. I like the matchup against the Buffalo Bills. And then obviously we have Vegas and Steelers. We got Las Vegas Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight. Another crazy one too. The Jaguars win. The Texans beat the Titans today, Mon. Remember, the Titans were the hottest team in the NFL until they played the Bengals, and they have not won since.
Yeah. Jake, jumping back on the Buffalo game, I know we're going to talk about that next episode. And I've called it since the schedule came out. I just don't see the Bengals losing in prime time in Cincinnati. The whole city's going to be bonkers crazy. That stadium is going to be electric. It's going to be electric.
Can't wait.
But listen, I respect the Buffalo Bills. I respect their quarterback. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be, listen, they're tough in the trenches. They're a tough defense. The Zach Taylor, Lou Anarumo, Joe Burrow, they're going to be ready, but it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle, and I'm glad it's in Cincinnati. I really am. That's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, no, I agree. I am so excited about being there on Monday night. It's going to be in a crazy atmosphere. I cannot wait. I wouldn't even mind if there's a little bit of snow. I wouldn't mind that. I like that, I think. But Mon, again, this Bengals football team is so resilient. You don't win 7 games in a row in the NFL without having to fight through some tough games. This team is different, Mon, and we've talked about it before. And I'm not saying this team's going back to the Super Bowl, but this team is even better than last year's team. They're just different, man. They are special. This football team is special, Mon. It's exciting.
They are. Listen, our listeners are probably sick and tired of hearing us say this. They just have this it factor about them. They're mentally
no
tough,
doubt.
battle
No
tested. Nothing phases them. Listen, things were mushrooming downhill I'm glad I wasn't recording at the time because I was getting a little emotional in my house. I'm like, man, we're going to lose this game. But those guys just went out there and guess what? They made that play. They got the fumble. They sort of act like, we knew it was going to happen. I'm just sort of
I
reading
know.
their body language out there. It's like, hey, man, what's the problem? We got this.
Yep.
And they
You're
just,
right.
you make fun of my age. I am old. I just remember so many
Really
years
old.
past where the Bengals would absolutely crumble. A
Oh,
pick
I
six
agree,
that
Maan.
Burrow. Honestly, it would have went downhill.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what?
I
They're like,
agree.
hey, we got it. We got this. And here's another thing of a good football team, Jake. We're playing on the road against a team. They're embarrassed last week, New England. We lost a turnover battle. All right. How often are we had 3 turnovers to their 1. When that usually happens, that means you're going to lose that game, especially on the road. It didn't happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And listen,
That's a good
the
point.
Bengals they're breaking these trends. They're breaking these, they haven't won since 86 in Foxborough. 89-0 Tom Brady.
Oh, that's a great
17.
that's a great
We're
stat.
breaking those trends. Yeah.
Mon, that's hard to believe, really. I mean, I know the era of Tom Brady was special in New England, but that's hard to believe that the Bengals hadn't won in Foxborough since 1986. But this Zach Taylor team, that's what they do, right? They break all these trends that we are used to from being fans for 40 years, Mon. We again, I know we do repeat it on here, but for us, it's just special because we're not used to it. And this Zach Taylor team, they're different, man. They are absolutely different. I cannot wait till Monday night. There's no way. I'm not going to sleep very well this week, Maan. I am so excited about this football game. This football game is the game of the year in the NFL. Not for that week, not for the last couple weeks, for the entire year. Bills at Bengals is the game of the year, no doubt.
ESPN is going to be pumping that. I'm going to be useless this week waiting for that game. Hey, just one other thing about my age and how old I am. I have that 1986 game against the Patriots. I have it on VHS. The Bengals, I still have that. The problem is I don't have a VCR player to play it right now, but I do have that game recorded. And they talked about it during the telecast, but Stanley Wilson, James Brooks each had 100 yards. That was a great game, man. That was a really cool game.
It really watching, and it was, and not only was it a good game, but it was a blowout, right? What should have been today, it was like 31-7, right? But yeah, watching the clips of James Brooks and Boomer and Eddie Brown. Oh my God, I just love those teams. All right, hey, real quick before we get out of here, Mon, one more hot take. Trent Irwin is going to be a Bengal for the next 3 years. I'm calling it now. They're going to re-sign him to a 3-year deal. He deserves it. Re-sign Trent Irwin. He has been incredible this year. All right, Bengal fans, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. If you liked this podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Make sure you check us out on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all the other podcast platforms. If you like this podcast, please, it's Christmas, guys. Give us that 5-star review. Maan and I would very much appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9 and on Instagram at the same without the at Bengals_Pulse9. And make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. Maan and I will be back with you guys next Friday previewing the game of the year in Cincinnati, Buffalo Bills at Cincinnati Bengals. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hooday, Bengal fans. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.